Have you noticed something has changed since a media witch hunt forced our largely popular, democratically elected, Brexit-delivering Prime Minister, who won office in a landslide just 2 years ago? The MSM, especially the British-bashing corporations Sly News and our other laughably so-called impartial broadcasters, have become drunk on their own power. They relish in it, not reporting the issues that are really facing Brits, like the cost of lockdown crisis, the war on women, and how the deranged march to net zero is destroying our ability to live freely, but rather playing pathetic and petty Westminster parlour games designed to claim yet another scalp. With Sunak back in power, the establishment no longer wants to defenestrate the Prime Minister, but create a culture of chaos to help lead Labour to the election under slippery Starmer. The creation of an activist MSM has not gone unnoticed by viewers of GBNews, desperate for an alternative to that narrative. It started with wallpaper, anti-Brexit coverage before leading to the disgraceful, one-sided pro-lockdown COVID diatribe as millions of us gave up on the Beeb and the others as an impartial news source. But today, I want to focus in specifically on their witch hunts against our leaders, even when their so-called crimes pale into insignificance compared to the real issues of the day. First, they relentlessly came for their biggest threat, Boris Johnson.
I asked you, yes.
In the meantime,
okay.
you promised to get onto the. I think people will hear. Well, you did promise. You did promise to get onto the substance of this trip.
Ben from the BBC did 7 minutes on Partygate, and I'm sure I haven't done as much as that. So
well,
I'm just
this isn't the kind of competition to see who can do more.
I'm just
why
saying.
Why don't you get onto the subject?
We are entering the end game. However you look at it, the Prime Minister is done.
This massively piles the pressure on the Prime Minister.
We've had people on his own side who did support him merely weeks ago who are saying it's over. And it is over.
Do you think, a lot of people saying, even if the Prime Minister wins this is the beginning of the end for him. Can he really recover if they don't get the numbers?
Once they knew it was possible to unseat such a significant and large figure, Liz Truss never stood a chance, even though she was backed overwhelmingly by the Conservative Party.
First few weeks of your time in office has felt chaotic, has felt like you don't have a plan, that you're out of control in some way.
I think voters are just tired of a lack of honest answers. I'm just saying to you, you're not minded to do it.
Despite a new Chancellor, despite those U-turns, you can't see how she can survive.
A cabinet, minister speaking out against what appears to be your position is you not in control. Your MPs will throw you out.
Andrew, how long has she got?
I think if she doesn't go today, they'll get her out next week or the week after.
With 2 PMs removed, the Westminster witch hunt has continued at pace. The first target, you'll remember, was the Home Secretary, Suella Braverman.
Ideally, the Prime Minister needs to persuade her to resign again of her own free will, saying she's realised she's become a distraction. If not, then I'm afraid he has to show her the door.
But Prime Minister Rishi Sunak stood outside the front door and said yesterday lunchtime, I want to restore integrity. And then a few minutes later, appoint somebody as Home Secretary in charge of national security who admitted breaching the ministerial code 6 days earlier. What does that say about integrity in government?
It is a bit rich for the Home Secretary to claim that she is the victim of a political witch hunt on the day that she herself is forced to admit that she has broken the ministerial code not once, for which she was sacked, but 6 times.
That one didn't work, so then they went for Dominic Raab.
We've seen Dominic Raab saying there's going to be an investigation into allegations of bullying by him. We saw allegations of the same sort against Priti Patel as Home Secretary. We've seen them against Gavin Williamson. What's wrong with this government?
So how is this different to what happened with Sir Gavin Williamson, who, he was in a similar position and then he resigned a couple of days later?
This is all becoming very difficult for Dominic Raab. When a minister is in the firing line for this long and with such pressure, you do have to wonder about their future.
That one hasn't worked either yet. So then they went for Gavin Williamson.
What sort of man is Gavin Williamson? He doesn't seem a particularly pleasant bloke or boss.
Rishi Sunak stands on the steps of Downing Street and says he's bringing integrity back into government. The question stands, how does bringing back Sir Gavin Williamson with his record reflect integrity?
I don't think viewers will think this morning there has to be some sort of big investigation. He did something he shouldn't have done that was obviously very unpleasant for the person who received those text messages. The Prime Minister knew there was a complaint about him bullying people and he gave him a job anyway.
Ding, ding, ding. They claimed another scalp. So now it's the Tory party chairman, Nadeem Zahawi, they want out. Even though there's an acknowledgement he likely hasn't broken any law. That doesn't matter. The media just wants another victim to hunt down.
Nadeem Zahawi's taxes is no longer just a problem for Nadeem Zahawi, it's a problem for Rishi Sunak.
This just looks so bloody otherworldly. It just looks abnormal. And you know why? Because it is abnormal.
If I was Sunak, I would do the brutal and necessary thing. And I would do it this very day.
It's a bit of a theme developing from that former BBC impartial presenter, right? I mean, while our single-minded anti-Tory journalists now seem to think that HMRC get everything right, that's not the point. The point is, it's not up to the media to campaign to remove democratically elected politicians, stripping them of the ability to do their job. Uncover crimes and wrongdoing, absolutely. But the activist MSM is now on a perpetual and personal witch hunt, which is bad for democracy.